Come for the Rush Royale, stay for the life lessons. That's going to be the concept of this video. How are you guys doing today? My name is Elliot, and welcome to my Rush Royale YouTube channel, where I discuss what my problem is with 33.0. My problem with 33.0 is that it's literally, mostly, I won't say literally, because somebody from the Rush Royale development team will be like, no, it's not. And that's fair. No, it's not. But yeah, it is. It's literally... It feels like when they added reincarnations as the new thing for the patch. It's all of these things that are going to cost way too much money for you to even be excited about. And I was trying to think of like what it would feel like. And it's kind of, I have two different metaphors for this. One is, let's say you buy a house, but you can't live in the house for 10 years or 20 years. You have to pay off the house before you can live in the house. So you agree to a realtor is going to sell you a house, right? And they say it's this amount of money, and you're like, I can afford that, I can pay that off in like 20 years. And they're like, okay, cool. Okay, we're going to sign some paperwork, and then in 20 years when you pay this off, you have a house. We're so excited. We're so excited that you're going to buy a house. And then to be excited now that you are homeless and you don't have a house, but in 20 years you will have a house. That is what this patch feels like. It's like, yeah, we know that you're not going to get reincarnations for a really long time. You're not going to enjoy demon hunter reincarnations for a really long time. You're not going to enjoy monk reincarnations for a really long time. Unless you spend money, you're not going to enjoy necromancer for a really long time. You're not going to enjoy Lucia for a really long time. But when you do, this is exciting, right? And you're like, no, it's not exciting. It's not exciting because I don't get to use any of that now. Other people get to use that against me now. And people that are willing to pay that large quantity of money to use those things. Now, in terms of Demon Hunter or Monk, I don't think those are going to be any better than what they normally are. What they actually are now. It's going to be better, but it's not going to beat an event unit. So don't think that. The problem with this game, I have a lot of things. The thing about this game, and somebody wrote a comment about why don't they rework Bestie, and the idea about reworking Bestie or reworking your favorite unit, it's not ever going to be better than it currently is. And what I mean by that is when somebody says you should rework Bestie, they want it to be as good as like Gadget, right? They should rework Bestie and buff Bestie, right? And that's not going to happen because what they're doing with this game is that everything needs to feel in the same grid that it is. Gadget, even if it got a buff, is not going to be better than a Zeus. Monk, even if it got a buff, is not going to be better than an event unit, a Pantheon unit. A regular legendary is not going to be better with a buff than a event unit. That's not how they're structuring this game. So you could say, hey, Jay is, you're forgetting about Jay. Jay is so useless. You should buff it. And it's like, okay, do you want it to be the best of the rare heroes? Because that's what they're going to do. It could get a buff, but it's not going to be better than a Gadget. And a Gadget's not going to be better than a Zeus, even if it got a buff. Even if the Zeus got a nerf, it's still not going to be worse than a Gadget or the same level as a Gadget. So, whenever people say nerfs or buffs or reincarnations or anything, it's all going to basically be the same at the end of the day. The thing about their response to people saying, and I wanted to talk about this, and I said life lessons, and so I want to give you a life lesson, and I want to teach you about the friend zone, and if you believe in the idea of the friend zone, allow me to change your mind. It is something that I believed in for a very long time. I very much growing up, I loved Family Matters, and I call it the Steve Urkel approach. And if you don't know about Family Matters, there's a character called Steve Urkel, and he likes Laura. And Laura does not like Steve Urkel because he's a nerd, and he's gross, and he's disgusting, and he's so annoying, right? And like Steve Urkel, to his complete core, loves Laura. He will do anything for Laura. He will die for Laura. He's like, I want to put all my energy into Laura in the hopes that at some point she's going to like me. She will see me for all my good qualities and she will like me. And that is essentially what the friend zone idea is. As I've grown, one second. Sorry, there's a singular spot next to me, and then somebody was going to take the spot, so I was like, outfit change. As I've grown older, I have a different philosophy, and my different philosophy is put in a little bit of effort, and if they would, then they will. Don't keep putting in effort if the other person isn't willing to give you any effort. Now, here's a perfect example. And I'll show you how it relates to Rush Royale and the development team and their responses. I have a friend that I was trying to hang out with. And I kept saying like, hey, we should hang out. I have this movie that I want to show you. And the person was like, okay, cool. And I was like, awesome. Here's my schedule. If you just pick a day and I will drive to you and hang out with you. And he just didn't respond to me for like a week. Right. And so then in the next week happens and they're like, hey, like I got really busy and, sorry I didn't respond to you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if you do want to, just let me know. Right. And so then they're like, yeah, definitely tomorrow, definitely Saturday. And I was like, okay. So I freed up my Saturday. I wasn't doing anything and I was just patiently waiting and they never texted me. And then they said on Sunday, oh, hey, I was super busy that day, it's so crazy, right? And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so at a certain point, my friend left something in my backpack that she wanted. And so she texted me. Now, mind you, this is the first text that I've gotten from this person in the 2 weeks that I tried to hang out with her and didn't receive a text of like, oh, I can't hang out because I'm busy. I just happened to see her on like the next shift or whatever. And then she said, oh, hey, by the way, that, I didn't text you, but this is why I wasn't there. This is why this is why, right? So now I have something of hers in my backpack that she accidentally left in my backpack at work. And I was like, perfect. I can hang out with you now. Let me know, and I'll drop off this thing at your house so we can hang out. And she didn't respond to me. And then the next time that I saw her at work, which was like the next week, that's when I just casually gave her the thing back. And she's like, oh, you know what? I've just been like super depressed. And that's the thing. And like, sorry, I haven't been able to hang out with you. I have not brought this up. I have not tried to hang out with her since this point. It's been at least a month and a half, if not more. And I just stopped talking to her. I mean, like I talked to her at work or whatever. It's fine. But like I stopped actively trying to be her friend and hanging out with her. I have a secondary friend that I told that I would love to hang out with you. And then it completely escaped my mind. And she texted me back and she was like, hey, I just wanted to make sure that, I thought, you said you wanted to hang out, and I was worried that, something might have happened. And I felt so bad. I hung out with her the next Wednesday. It's fine if you don't do something. But if you give excuse after excuse after excuse, then at some point you're not trying. Even if you're saying you're trying, you're not trying. And at some point, what you're saying is just stringing me along. Rush Royale has not introduced a talent to a talentless creature, a talentless unit, for a year. They did it for Trapper, bravo, but in terms of common epic rare, a year. Archer Sentry. I will always go back to Archer Sentry. Now, I will give, I understand why they're not doing it, but it seems crazy to me that they're not doing it. They're not doing it because who talks about Archer Sentry anymore? They gave talents to Archer Sentry, people were excited for a week, and nobody cares anymore. Nobody is making Archer Sentry talent videos, right? Nobody is talking, nobody's using Archer Sentry. Like, in their data, there's no spike in Archer Sentry, right? Nobody cares. But what do they care about? They care about event units. They care about the newest thing, right? Not only does the newest thing give them money, large quantities of money, just by saying, here's the newest thing, but then people also talk about it because everybody's interested. Oh, how good is Twins? How good is Phoenix? How good is Bard? How good is Genie? How good is Treant? How good is Frankenstein? How good is Twilight Ranger, right? That's the buzz. That's the buzz that's generated every single time they come out with an event unit. And every single time they say, like people ask in the comments, like, why aren't you releasing, talents for Bombardier and Plague Doctor and Fire Mage and Cold Elemental? And all of these cards, all of these commons, rares, and epics that don't have talents. I'm not even talking about Hex. I'm not talking about Corsair. I'm talking about free-to-play things. Things that people already have at max. Why aren't you doing something for the free-to-play community, right? They release a patch that's Reincarnation Demon Hunter, Reincarnation Monk, new Legendary Hero Lucia, new rework for Legendary Hero Necromancer, and nothing for common, rare, epic, talents. And their response is, oh, we're always looking forward to that. We're always trying. Everything will get talents in time. Soon. It will get talents. But we can't stop the progress, the moving forward of the game. Now, let me give you a second metaphor. Another metaphor. Not a second metaphor. This is like a third metaphor. Let me give you another metaphor. Let's say you buy a game, like a PlayStation 4 game, PlayStation 5 game, an Xbox game, and it has 100 levels. But you can't get past level 5 because there's a bug in the system. There's a bug that they haven't fixed. You get to level 5 and it crashes, right? And then the developer, you ask the developers, hey, there's a bug in your game. We were promised 100 levels. We just want to play the regular game. And they're like, oh, we're going to get to that eventually, but we also, here's some downloadable content, and it's 6 new levels. Here's 6 new levels, and you can use this new character that we just created, and there's customizable outfits, and they're $2 a piece. And here, play this new downloadable content level, and you can play all 6 levels. And you're like, that's interesting, but I kind of want to play the original game. And then after that game releases, they're like, you're like, okay, well, can you fix levels 6 through, 100? And they're like, oh, we are going to get to that, but here's a new downloadable content level. It adds 6 more levels to that last one. And we have more customization for the villains, and we have more customizable outfits, for $4. And, you can play this new downloadable content level for $15. And you're like, oh, okay. But I just want to play that, the rest of the original game. And they're like, no, we're going to get to that. But here's another downloadable content level. It's $20 and there's 3 more heroes that you can use. And that's what Rush Royale feels like right now. And I'm not saying that the original game is going to be great, right? But the only way to move forward, to think forward, is if you have a completed game. You added talents to things and didn't do all the talents to everything. You add reincarnations, but you don't add reincarnations to everything. And so it just constantly feels like a work in progress, like you're not really playing a full game. And they keep selling you new things that they're adding, with the idea, with like the response idea that they don't want to slow down forward progress. And, like, oh, it takes so much time. This is what they will say in comments. Try to, ask a developer, ask a person in the Discord, right? Why aren't you adding talents to older things? And this is what they will say. This is what they are programmed to say. It almost feels like an automated response at this point. They will say that it's very complicated to add talents to something that's old because it changes the scope of the game. It like there's a lot of testing that goes into it. But we're going to make this event unit, and we're going to make this event unit, and we're going to make this event unit, and we're going to add reincarnations to these, and we're going to add this legendary hero. That's not complicated. But, Plague Doctor, if we added talents to that, it would ruin everything. It would just, so much testing, so much, it's so crazy. It's so hard. It's been a year. They don't care. And it bothers me that they don't care. That's my biggest gripe with this game. A lot of people will turn to matchmaking. A lot of people will turn to pay to win mechanics, right? My real problem with this game is that they don't see anything wrong with having an incomplete game and adding future things to your incomplete game. In my example of levels 1 through 5 are bugged and you can't get past, level 5 to get to level 100 that they promised at the beginning of the game, or why you bought the game anyway. In that vein, it would be like if they were like, we're coming out with a new game. We're coming out with the sequel of this game. Buy that for $500. Buy the sequel to this game for $500, and you'll get to play, levels 1 through 200. And you're like, wait, I haven't finished this original game because you haven't finished it. You just added downloadable content, and now you've created a sequel to this game. I just want to play the original game. And they're like, we're going to get to it, but it's very complicated. It's a very niche bug that it's really complicated to fix. It's so hard. I'm just so busy right now. I don't have time to text you. I don't, it's so difficult. I really want to fix it, but I can't. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I need to keep moving forward. And I do care about you, but I'm so busy right now. So busy right now. That's what it feels like. I'm not going to stop playing this game. But if you wanted to know my actual thoughts about this game and why it's sometimes difficult to even come up with content or to be positive about this game, it has almost nothing to do with the game itself and everything to do with the developers and their decisions. Because they have the ability to make this game great or bad. And the fact that they don't listen to anybody because it's not our game, right? It's not our game. If this game fails, no money is coming out of your pocket. It is not your game. However you feel about the game, it is not your game. It's not your decision. It's not your decision to make this game better. It's their decision. And if they want to make bad decisions, and if they want to see how much they can squeeze out of people, then that's their decision. It's their decision to do whatever they want with their game, because it is their game. But if you're asking me why it's so hard to make content sometimes, and I've done this video a lot of times, and why I don't come out with videos every day, this is why. I am not a free-to-play player by any means, right? But I'm also not somebody who is willing to spend $2,000 for a legendary hero. I don't have that amount of funds. I think Godlike Mike said he spent $28,000 on his account or something. Some ridiculous number. And I was like, that's not me. I spend far more than most people are probably willing to spend, but that is far more than I'm willing to spend, right? And I think I've gotten to the point where I'm to give you another life lesson. I think I'm so far into this game. In the same way that, like, why people stay in bad relationships. And it's called time investment. The thing about time investment, and why people stay in bad relationships, is because you want something to come out of the amount of time that you've spent into something. If you've spent 10 years with the same person, right, and that relationship is dying, the smart move is to leave. Sorry, apparently everybody around me just keeps coming and leaving next to the 2 spots that I have near me. The smart thing is to leave, right? If you're not happy in the current relationship, then leave, right? But then you think about the time investment. And this is what keeps most people in bad relationships. You think about the 10 years of time that you've spent towards this person. And you think to yourself, like, I can't leave this because then the last 10 years will have meant nothing and I just wasted 10 years. I've spent a large quantity of time playing this game. To just delete this game, delete my channel, and to leave all of this feels insane. It feels the amount of money that I've spent in this game, the amount of, time that I've put into this game, the amount of videos that I've created out of this game, the popularity that it's gotten me out of this game, it feels insane to just leave it, right? So I'm kind of stuck here. I feel like I'm stuck here complaining about the game. Complaining about not really the game, but the decisions that the developers are making about the game. I've always said that the worst thing about this game is the optics. The optics that the developers are okay with are insane. The ability to release a patch that is not at all free-to-play friendly is insane. And the idea that, you would release everything in the same patch. Why? I'm okay. Again, I'm okay with releasing this if you fix everything else. If you finish giving talents to everything else. If you finish giving talents to everything else, people can look forward. If you have a completed game where all your players can go from level 1 to level 100, and then you want to release downloadable content so that people that are invested in that world can explore and do more things if they feel like paying the more, then that feels fine. But if everybody can look at your game and see things that you haven't finished, and you keep selling them new things, I think that's insane. At the very least, if you want to add downloadable content to your game, say, hey, we fixed patch 5, right? Level 5 is now fixed. You can now get to level 20. We're still working on a patch. We're trying to figure out the bugs to this game. That's bad, because why did you release the game at all in the first place? But at the very least, that feels like progression. Adding new things is not progression. That's distraction. That's the optics. The optics is that you're trying to distract as opposed to fix. And you're selling it, both metaphorically and actually, as progress. Kind of want to end on that. That feels like a strong note to end on. I'm going to end on that.